Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunivadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are reading from I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu story. So this is actually history of this temple, and on every Ekadasi we read this as a memorial. It's like it's special history and pastimes. The morning slot is reserved for the Srimad Bhagavatam class, but there are two types of Bhagavata. One is the book Bhagavatam and the other is the person Bhagavatam. When we hear about Srila Prabhupada's qualities, then we see the Bhagavatam in practice. If you see the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, if you open the Srimad Bhagavatam, any canto, you see the introduction. The introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam has the life history of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada it's interesting because if you open Bhagavatam, then the introduction has to be something about the book. But then why is he putting Chaitanya Charitamrita in Bhagavatam? Because it is the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life is basically the Bhagavatam in practice. You can only understand a concept when you see it happening in front of you. That's how we understand something, by example. So this book especially is nothing but an extension of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, which His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, to our good fortune, Maharaj is here present in Hare Krishna land right now. Maharaj has penned down, and this entire saga, which was the Juhu story, Srila Prabhupada's struggle for this land that we are sitting on, SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple, that is reflected in this book. So it is a must read for everyone. And if you have not yet read it, then please read it. Otherwise, in any case, you keep attending this class which happens on Ekadasis, and in any case you will hear it. So, why do we need to hear this? It is also interesting. Somebody may raise a question: why do we need to read something like this? Isn't this meant for scriptural study? So the reality is also history. History defines who we are. Our identity is based on where I am coming from. Suppose a plate of food is kept in front of you. Whether it is bhoga or prasad, if you don't know, what will you do with it? You don't know where it is coming from, you don't know where it will go. In the same way, in our lives, if we don't know where we are coming from, then which is the direction where we are supposed to go? Unclear. It will not be clear. And therefore, for all those who are practitioners of this Krishna consciousness movement, who consider themselves as aspiring practitioners of Krishna consciousness, or remotely also followers of Srila Prabhupada, should know the history of Srila Prabhupada, that is his life story, and should know, those who are connected to this temple should know about this temple's history. Because only then it adds value to our life. You can appreciate something only if you know about its value. Like a small child, you give them 100 rupee note, they will tear it also because they don't know the value of it. In the same way, we can appreciate Krishna consciousness and the opportunity we have when we come here to Hare Krishna land, only when we know the background and history that is there in books like this. Because this gives so much of value and substance to and meaning to us. And that richness, when you live with that richness, when you perform Krishna consciousness and all activities with that richness, then it is relishable. Relishable. Especially in this world of so much of distraction and so much of illusion, especially we see that, the advertising industry and so many industries, they work extra time to make sure that our minds are distracted. They run with that agenda that somehow or other they have to convince you that every other product that we have is useless till the time you don't buy what they have, right? So in an extremely consumeristic society, when our consciousness is so easily distracted, how important it is for us to become fixed up in not Krishna consciousness, in Prabhupada consciousness. Because if this is not there, then Krishna is far away. So, building block, even in the disciple course we teach, there is Prabhupada Ashray, then there is Guru Ashray. So, Prabhupada Ashray becomes a very mandatory, it's a foundation. So, when our values resonate with what Srila Prabhupada wanted, then there is hope for us and the movement, both. So, how do you know what Prabhupada wanted? So, then we read about him, we hear about him. Shravanam is the process. So this is the history of this temple. Because we come here, you see, any person who has created something has value for it. A person who is the founder of a company has a lot of value for his company because he's done the hard work. We are fortunate because we are sitting in a place where we didn't do any work to make this place up. We didn't do. But 55 years ago, there were devotees who did. So in the 40th anniversary, many of these devotees were invited and they were expressing and they were narrating their experiences and all the struggles and austerities they underwent to live here on Hare Krishna land, to live here so that this place could be built up the way we see it today. So just like children who receive everything for granted become spoilt. This is a very common thing in today's generation because they don't really need to work very hard. Life was different a couple of decades ago. When we grew up, at least I remember when I grew up, life was tough. In the sense there was struggle, scarcity of resources was there. India was still supposed to come in the bracket of being a developing country. So then, scarcity of resources keeps us humble also. But in today's generation, we see that many children become very spoiled easily because all luxuries and facilities are easily available. So when does one get spoiled? When everything is given spoon-fed. बहुत आसानी से मिल गया. So that mood we should not have because we are actually children. Those who are utilizing this facility are actually children, grandchildren, and the forthcoming generations coming from Srila Prabhupada and his followers. So that we don't become granted, we don't take this for granted, and we don't take it lightly, the austerities and sacrifices done by those who made this place possible. Then we hear and we relish this history, a retelling of events of what exactly happened. If you go around the world in ISKCON also, we find that devotees they all know that RadhaRasBihari is very special. Sometimes devotees come from out and they feel RadhaRasBihari is more special than those devotees who are actually serving in RadhaRasBihari. This is an irony, but it happens. Because they are more conscious of the fact that Prabhupada, when he built this temple, many Prabhupada disciples personally told me that this temple for them, every brick breathes Prabhupada. They say like this. We serve here, we come here, we don't feel like this. But so many Prabhupada disciples, they feel like that. They say every place here, every brick in this temple, it breathes Prabhupada. They say like this. So this is an opportunity for us to relish the struggle and sacrifice of Srila Prabhupada to create this monumental structure, SriSriRadhaRasbihari Mandir. So now we are reading here, this is the chapter is preaching in Prayag and Bombay. Oh no, sorry. We messed up. Oh, sorry, yeah. The chapter is facing challenges. Facing challenges. It's a very apt topic, you know. One time, one disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? Because there are so many quotes of Srila Prabhupada wherein he says, book distribution pleases me the most. And somewhere, some Varnashram, there is something about Varnashram. So like these different places Prabhupada has mentioned. So then, so many things he has mentioned. Then in amidst all of this, one disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? So Srila Prabhupada replied, when you struggle for Krishna, that pleases me the most. So unless and until there are challenges, where is struggle? So challenges make life more relishable. Because there are ups and downs. Even if you see in the hospital, if you see, then even in the, they have these machines by which they take electrocardiogram. And that machine also goes up, down. Straight means it is a dead person. Goes up and down. So that is what life is all about. It is up and down, challenges. And through Srila Prabhupada's life, we learn how challenges should be accepted. Not as problems, as difficulties by which I'm stuck now. It's like people get into depression or too much excessive anxiety. But we learn through Srila Prabhupada's example. He is Acharya. Acharya means the one who leads by example. We see how he faced challenges. And we can absorb this mood that Srila Prabhupada has of how he faced challenges. So this chapter is about that, facing challenges. On July 18, the New York media gave our Rath Yatra parade prominent and favorable coverage under the headlines Fifth Avenue where East meets West and East meets West in Hare Krishna Fete. The Daily News dedicating its center photo section. Prabhupada there for the event had his secretary include copies of the paper in a letter to Ramakrishna Bajaj. He said, this title is very nice. This is the point. The lame man meets the blind man. Together they do wonderful, but separately they cannot do anything. He is blind and he is lame. But if they join together, Indian culture and American money, they will save the whole world. Once in Radha Damodar Mandir, so Prabhupada disciples were cleaning. When Prabhupada came back to Vrindavan, then the devotees were cleaning the temple. Cleaning Radha Damodar temple, Prabhupada's quarters in Radha Damodar. And they found a piece of paper. It had Srila Prabhupada's to-do list. We have to-do lists, wherein we mention about the activities that we are going to do in a day. So they found Srila Prabhupada's to-do list, one piece of paper. And guess what did this piece of paper mention? It said, to save the world from godlessness. That was Prabhupada's to-do list. What kind of a goal? They say if you don't have something to die for, you have nothing to live for. So Srila Prabhupada embodies this statement. That the goal was so big. To save the world from godlessness. So when Srila Prabhupada, he went to New York, first year he only observed what was going on in the American scene. He goes to Butler, Pennsylvania. Actually, yesterday was the day. Somebody sent a nice message. Yesterday was the day of when the ticket was issued. So, somebody sent us a message like this, that the ticket that saved our lives. What was that ticket? The ticket to Jaladuta. If that ticket was not there, this was 60 years ago. Yesterday's date, August 4, 60 years ago, that ticket to Jaladuta was issued. You know that pastime. This happened in Juhu, Sumati Morarji's place. So Prabhupada comes there to get the ticket for Jaladuta. He wants to go. How much opposition he gets? He's already 69 years old. And how much opposition? From even Sumati Morarji's office. When he said, I want to go to America, Sumati Morarji's staff, they told, Buddha marne jaya raha hai. They said like this, the old man is going to die to America. Swamiji wants to go to America to die. That's how they were talking. It did not deter Prabhupada. Sumati Morarji was not convinced. And she was busy lady also. She had a school up here, Sumati Morarji school. And she was the chairman of the India Steamship Company. So Prabhupada wanted a free passage on that. He wanted a passage. He knew that only because he used to come to Juhu to give Bhagavatam classes to Sumati Morarji's circle. In her family, in her friend circle, family circle, building circle, in the society, Prabhupada used to come and give Bhagavatam classes. He used to come to Andheri station and walk all the way. So he made Sumati Morarji, he was not getting an appointment because the staff knew that Prabhupada has come to ask for the ticket. So the staff felt this is just an old man's stubbornness. So they didn't want to allow him to go inside. So Prabhupada just sat down on the staircase. And he sat there for 4 hours. He just sat there, saying, Bahar to aana hi padega isko idhar se. So he just sat there. So then finally what happened? The meeting happened. Sumati Morarji Prabhupada meeting happened. And when Sumati Morarji found that Prabhupada is very determined to go, she gave him that ticket to Jaladuta. So that was issued yesterday, 60 years ago. That was a fateful ticket which actually saved so many lives and continues to do so. Jaladuta is a cargo ship. What a journey, going alone, at this advanced age, 70 years old, having heart attacks. So you are not in the best of health. It took a long time to reach there. 48 days it took the journey. In Bandra we were doing a program, one society program. So there one old man, after I gave an introduction of Prabhupada a couple of years ago, one very old gentleman came to me. He said, I remember. So what? He said, I was an engineer on the Jaladuta. And that Jaladuta voyage was my first or second voyage in 1965. And the man looked very old. He was 80 something. This is a couple of years ago. So he said that I was on that ship. I remember Swamiji. He said his health was very bad. So this was a confirmation, because in the Lilamrit we read that Srila Prabhupada's health was not well. He got seasickness. When he was on the ship, he got seasickness. And he had 2 heart attacks on the way. But surprising, because the route to New York, especially crossing the Atlantic Ocean, was very stormy weather. And that storm in between the sea doesn't help anyone's health. But Captain Pandya later on remarked that, Swamiji, you should come and travel with us all the time. Because I never saw Atlantic so calm in my career. So the stormy weather, after this heart attack happens, it very much calms down. And so the captain and all the crew members of the ship, they felt that Lord Krishna has taken charge of the ship. So it was such an eventful journey. And Srila Prabhupada, when he reaches Boston Harbor, he writes this Markine Bhagavad Dharma. What a beautiful poem is that, on offering, wherein Srila Prabhupada, he is completely surrendering himself to the Lord, saying, I don't know why you have brought me here, my dear Lord. Because how will these people who are in full ignorance and passion, who are addicted to eating meat and intoxication, how will they understand your message? He prays like that. Then he says that for some reason you have You have sent me here, so surely you must have some purpose. You have named me Bhakti Vedanta. Now it is up to you to fulfill the purport of that name. And then he says that I am a puppet in your hands. You make me dance as you like. Make me dance. Srila Prabhupada, this kind of mood he had. Complete surrender. So when Srila Prabhupada gets down, this book is their Jaladuta diary. So in that he writes how he felt. And about the heart attack and how he felt in that. He was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Took shelter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada, while he was on Jaladuta. SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Gaur Nitai ki. So this is how Srila Prabhupada he faced a health challenge. Health challenge he faced by taking shelter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, taking care of his health, relaxing, and at the same time being fully dependent on Krishna in a very prayerful mood. So Srila Prabhupada. So when he reaches Boston Harbor, so then when he gets down, actually you see this ship, it started from Calcutta. From Calcutta, the Bhagavatam set was boarded. There, Srila Prabhupada and his son were there. So they saw the ship being loaded with Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada felt that it had such a valuable and important role that actually he said, somebody asked, Swamiji, you are going to America? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, the Bhagavatam is going to America, I am accompanying it. So that was Srila Prabhupada's mood. Bhagavatam is going to America. Because even in Markine Bhagavad Dharma, he prays that please make my speaking suitable so that I can speak the message of Bhagavatam to this audience. He prays like that. So he considered himself as an instrument of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he boarded from Mumbai. The boarding of the books happened from Calcutta. And then so when he disembarks at New York, so then there, he didn't know, he writes in his diary, he didn't know whether to turn right or left. He didn't know anyone. So because of Mr. Agrawal, a Mathura-based businessman's son, Gopal Agrawal, who was based in Butler, Pennsylvania. So Srila Prabhupada, he had an acquaintance and he got an invite to go to New York. So when he reaches there, then he goes to Butler. So there, what kind of struggle he has to endure? Sally Agrawal was an American lady who was married to Gopal. And she was eating meat. So in the fridge, there was meat in the same fridge that Srila Prabhupada also was using. So she used to smoke also. So Srila Prabhupada, he had to tolerate this. The Shastras say that a sannyasi should not cross the ocean. This is exactly the reason. Because how difficult then it becomes to maintain principles wherein everywhere around you, sense gratification is the standard. So when he was in Butler, Pennsylvania, he just observed. A few places he gave some class here and there. But he observed mainly. And then he saw that if he has to make any impact, he has to go to New York. That's where it's happening. So then he joins Dr. Mishra's yoga studio. Dr. Mishra, who was a Mayavadi. So he didn't allow Prabhupada to speak also. And then Prabhupada, he goes to Lower East Side. And that's where all the hippies were there. So that history which is there is very special of Srila Prabhupada's struggle. So because this chapter talks about facing challenges, nobody faced more challenges than Prabhupada, alone, in an unknown country, didn't know anyone. There was a difference with respect to the language also. See, when Prabhupada spoke English, it was accented English and Indian accent. And Bengali, he came from the British era. So there was a certain thickness to it. There was difficulty for him to understand others, for others to understand him. It's not free-flowing. And you can do like this in youth. People migrate to different countries in youth. Who goes in old age? Nobody goes in old age. It's too risky. So one will naturally want to be comfortable. People work hard in youth so that they can save up for old age, so that they can have a nice retirement plan. That's how the normal mindset of people in this mundane people have. Prabhupada, he took up a challenge at such an advanced stage. And what a challenge. I mean, we cannot imagine going to a completely unknown country you've never been before, and you know nobody, and there you want to establish Krishna consciousness. Now, what else did he have but absolute faith on the holy name? So that is Srila Prabhupada. Absolute faith in Krishna, in the message of the Lord, and in his spiritual master. So here, Indian culture, American money. So when Srila Prabhupada, when he was in America, he observed the American situation, and he saw that the Americans have given up their culture. They had given up their culture completely, whatever original culture was there, and they were fully into intoxication, drugs, meat eating. One time, when Prabhupada was giving a class to these hippies, he told them that no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex. You should not do this. So the hippies replied, then what should we do? Because their life, this was the standard of life. So Srila Prabhupada, he reaches there. So he's observed this. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he always said, this is the analogy he gave, blind man and lame man. He said the Americans are blind, they are materially prosperous, but they have no direction. Whereas the Indians, because they have rich culture, but they are impoverished. They are poverty stricken. At that time, we're talking 50 years ago. Now, if you talk like this, people will argue that India is one of the rising economies of the world. It's developing so rapidly. So yes, but at that time, Srila Prabhupada saw how best Krishna consciousness could be promoted. Exactly in line with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mood, that if there is any shortage in this world, it is not that Indian markets are crashing, so they need to be uplifted. That's not the shortage. Bhakti Siddhanta saw for what it was. He saw the truth, and the truth was that if there is any shortage in this world, it is Krishna consciousness. That's it. There is only one lack in this world, he used to say. That is Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada saw it. So he said, Indians have culture. What is culture? Culture is philosophy in practice. When we practice Krishna conscious culture, when we practice Krishna conscious philosophy, what results as of it is called culture. So when Prabhupada is referring to Indian culture, he refers to the absolute version of applied Krishna consciousness. So he says that is India's wealth. But it's lame. He compares India that time to the lame man. Lame man because he's handicapped, cannot go anywhere, cannot do anything, cannot accomplish anything without help. So that lameness is because of lack of material resources. So Prabhupada said that America has so much of material resources. So it is a very wealthy nation. It has so much of, people are rich. Whereas India has culture. If both come together, then it's very easy. Like, if a man is lame, if the blind man keeps the lame man on his shoulders. So lame man can see, the blind man cannot. So the lame man can tell the blind man, go straight, go right, take a left. If they become one, then they are complete. So when Prabhupada is thinking from this point of view, that I want to save the world from godlessness, he is thinking that Indian culture and American money, if these two are combined, then it will be perfect. What do we learn through this? We learn that every situation, we can take the best out of it to somehow implant Krishna consciousness in all the living entities around, in that situation. We can learn. So now this is just an example how Srila Prabhupada's thought process was. Because whichever country he went, he saw what good it has. Just like Chanakya Pandit says, you can take gold from also a filthy place. You can take gold, pick up gold from a filthy place. A place of garbage, you will not enter there. But if there is gold, you can pick up. In the same way, if there is something good, you can pick up from there also. So Srila Prabhupada, he saw that American situation is horrible. But he also saw that they have something good, that they have material. There is no scarcity of resources. So he said, okay, we can pick up that and combine it to make this world a better place. So that kind of mood Srila Prabhupada had. He felt that the headlines had captured what he had said on a walk before the parade. America is blind by money. Dhana durmadandha. When one gets too much money, he becomes blind. To get too much richness means he becomes blind. This is quote, Prabhupada is saying all this. America is blind by money. And when one gets too much money, he becomes blind. To get too much riches means he becomes blind. He doesn't care. So this is the blindness of America. So even Kunti Maharani says this. Janma Ishware Shutashri Bhi Reda Manamada Puman Naivarape Bidhatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gochara. She says that material opulence is actually a disadvantage when it comes to progress in devotional life. Why? Because life is so good, why will I depend on Krishna? Everything is going well. So why will I remember Krishna? So that's why she is saying, Vipada Santuta Shashvat, Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru. She says that let there be more problems in my life, more challenges she is praying for. Why? Because Apunarbhava Darshanam. Because if you remember Krishna, she says that if I remember Krishna, there will be no more birth. So that's what Kunti Maharani's mood is. So Prabhupada, he mentions richness means material opulence, it makes one blind. Of course, there are examples of those who are Krishna conscious and can utilize material opulence in Krishna's service. That is the best. And we Indians have no money, but we have got culture. Combined together, then things will be very nicely done for the good of the whole world. Simply money is not the end, there must be culture. Take that culture, Vedic culture, and use it with American money, then the whole world will be paradise, Vaikuntha. How amazing. Culture, Vedic culture. So now, India's situation, if Prabhupada was there today, he would have said, well, India is progressing certainly. Actually, what happened last 50 years of whatever the name that India has all over the world, still India is the cultural ambassador, spiritual and an ambassador for spirituality and culture. It still is. And this is, you can understand it by the popularity of yoga around the world. You can understand this by how karma, reincarnation concepts have got mass acceptability now. It was not there a couple of decades ago. People didn't believe in karma. People didn't believe so much in yoga. But it's become now very much the norm. Yoga especially. So veganism is nothing but, in some way inspired by vegetarianism, which actually came up, it was originally preached, is a part of the culture that Srila Prabhupada went to give. So this is happening all around the world. These aspects are increasing. And Srila Prabhupada had a very big role to play because he was the first person to export Indian culture to the West. He was the first person to do that. So culture is a whole package. Culture doesn't mean I will accept something, I will not accept other thing. It's a whole package. Vedic culture, it's a whole package. And there is a lot of depth to everything that we do in Vedic culture, which is centered around personal relationships. Now in Krishna consciousness also, that's exactly the aim. We want to develop personal relationship with Krishna. How do we develop a personal relationship with Krishna unless and until we develop a personal relationship with people around us in the Bhakta Sangha that has also been mercifully provided by Krishna. So, charity begins at home. That means that for Indians especially, if you hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures in India, you will see that he was very heavy, very strong he was. Because he was always pushing that why have Indians given up their culture? Krishna consciousness is inherent to them. Why have they given up? At one point, Srila Prabhupada made an analogy also. He said that Indians, they are near to Krishna, but they are pointing away from Krishna. They are looking away. Whereas the Westerners, they are away from Krishna, but they are pointing in Krishna's direction. So now from that point of view, guess who's closer? And therefore, so many people in the West, they took up Krishna consciousness. And now also, we find, you go to Mayapur, you go to Vrindavan, and many devotees who don't come from India, but they come from different countries with varied previous backgrounds. Having taken up Krishna consciousness, the kind of sincerity and dedication with which they live in the holy dhams, then we understand that, Baba, they are more Indian than Indians also. Because the value that they have for the Indian spiritual culture is so high that sometimes even Indian devotees are put to shame looking at the sincerity and the aspiration that Western devotees have for Indian culture, for Vedic culture, original Vedic culture. They are searching for that. So for Indians, it becomes a mandatory, it's a job requirement. That means you're a part of spiritual culture, you're part of the Krishna consciousness movement. It means that we should try to progressively develop Vaishnava qualities that help to establish culture in and around our circles, to set an example for others. That becomes the responsibility. Why? Because if you see them, you see those Western devotees, they're searching and they are looking up to Indians. And then if the Indian devotees, if they act as if, if they take lightly the cultural aspects and try to behave or take certain elements from Western society with respect to culture, then those devotees who are sincerely aspiring to develop original Vedic culture, they feel very disappointed. They say, what is this? They say, all this is there in the West. We gave that up to come here. This is what we have to see. So for Indians, it becomes a prime responsibility. When Mahaprabhu says, Bharat Bhumite Manushya Janma Hoila Yar, Janma Sarthaka Kari Karo Para Upkar, when Mahaprabhu says that, an aspect of Janma Sarthaka Kari, apart from the progressive cultivation of spiritual life, is the progressive cultivation of Vaishnava qualities that happen in Vaishnava communities. So that is natural servant leadership. It's just natural that it leads to servant leadership. So this is a question that we should ask ourselves. Am I on that progressive path of developing Vaishnava qualities to establish spiritual leadership the way Srila Prabhupada wanted? Because that's what he stood for. If you read Bhagavatam, throughout you will find so much emphasis Prabhupada made on establishing Brahmanical culture. Brahmanical culture, a culture that is based on Vedic scriptures. He wanted that. People practicing. Because it is progressively purifying. So generation after generation, it's progressively purifying. So is this the direction we are oriented in? This is a question for all those who are in the Krishna consciousness movement. Is that our direction or not? So that's what Srila Prabhupada says. There must be culture. Culture is an umbrella term. So many things is culture. Right from the way we dress, to the way we look, to the way whatever we do in the whole day. It's all culture. So that is individually, as a community, what values we have is also culture. Our relationships, our communication, this is all culture. So, Srila Prabhupada, he says, Brahmana, he doesn't build a house, he builds his character. He says, Brahmana means he builds a character. So, if we consider ourselves followers or aspiring followers of Srila Prabhupada's mission, it means that we must be on the progressive march to develop character, which means there is conscious contemplation of Vaishnava qualities within us. You only lead by example. It's easy to tell others, hey, you're not doing this fine, you're not doing this well. It's easy to say that. But it's very difficult to always be conscious of all of that and apply all of them as we go through our daily routine. It's tough. But that's why Bhaktisiddhanta says that at the end of this whole endeavor, even if you make one soul Krishna conscious, it will be success. And who is that one soul? It is ourselves. So who's going to take responsibility for our own progress? We ourselves have to do. We cannot expect the others will do. Moving ahead. In his letter, Prabhupada encouraged Bajaj to follow his example in preaching the message of Gita and doing actual good for the world. Quote, enclosed, please find news clippings of our Rath Yatra festival held on 5th Avenue, New York last Sunday, he wrote, quote, "They are taking it seriously now. East meets West. This is the real platform of United Nations. Spiritual understanding. I wish that the coordinator of the Gita Pratishthan will preach the gospel of the Gita on this understanding." So basically, this invitation to Gita Pratishthan, Prabhupada gets at Vardha, he gets this. And everybody's there in that. Followers of Vinoba Bhave, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Aurobindo, Chinmayananda, Gandhi, all of them are there. And Prabhupada has very explicitly already mentioned what he thinks about them. In the previous line, he mentioned, just before we started reading today's section, he mentions all rascals. He says. Why? He says because the whole understanding is Ishavasyam idam sarvam, that we see spiritual communism. Spiritual communism means we don't differentiate. We see everyone as a part and parcel of Krishna. So we give out Krishna consciousness freely. Take it ourselves and give it out freely. And that is a real Gita Prachar. That is real Gita Pratishtha. Not some impersonalist meaning. Not something impersonal. So that's why Prabhupada is very strong about this. In October, in Chandigarh, Hamsaduta read out a stack of mail to Prabhupada and noted down his dictated replies. Ramakrishna Bajaj had written to inform Prabhupada of the new dates for the Gita Prachar conference, December 19 and 20, in Wardha, Maharashtra. He had enclosed a list of about 25 other invitees, including some other well-known Mayavadis, and expressed his appreciation of Srila Prabhupada. Some Mayavadis were also invited. And he is expressing, so this is Ramakrishna Bajaj, he is quoting, quote, "As you have made invaluable contribution to the propagation of the message of Gita all over the world," he had written, "the benefit of your mature advice and guidance will be most helpful in planning the future work of Gita Pratishthan and coordinating the activities of different organizations engaged in this work. We earnestly hope that you will be able to join us in this meeting and shall be grateful if you could kindly let us have your early confirmation in this regard." Prabhupada accepted the invitation. He wrote back, "I will advise Giriraj, my secretary in Bombay, to see you in this connection." He replied, "I wish to take with me my Sankirtan party if you would like to accommodate them. If not, then only my personal secretaries, altogether 5, will go with me. So you have to arrange accommodation for them. I am sending a copy of this letter to Giriraj to do the needful." So Prabhupada accepted preaching opportunities. So this was Gita, because it was supposed to be Gita Pratishthan. So Prabhupada wanted to take full advantage of it being Bhagavad-gita, because only Prabhupada had Bhagavad-gita as it is message. All the other Mayavadis were off. So this is more than 50 years ago. Now in today's day, where is Gita Pratishthan happening? Very less. Now it's reduced very considerably. So in one way, it is good also. Because then, when people are clean slate, it's easier to preach. Because preaching in India means mostly removing misconceptions. People have some odd conceptions about spiritual life. So you remove them. Like most people think spirituality is a retirement program, or they think spirituality means escapism. So then we have to clarify all of those doubts. However, younger generation, they have no such preconceived idea. And therefore, it's actually easy, because they can take Krishna consciousness for what it is. So here we see Prabhupada, he says that my Sankirtan party will also come. So Prabhupada knew that the conclusion, the success of any program means Sankirtan. Kirtan has to be there. So he is telling them, Gita Prachar, Gita Pratishthan, I will come, my Sankirtan party will also come, you arrange accommodation for them also. And then he writes there, if not, there was less time. So he's writing there, if that's difficult, then my secretaries, a secretary would be 1 or 2. He says 5 will come. So if nothing, then with 5 of them, he will do Kirtan. But Kirtan is mandatory. So you will find that even in the programs that Prabhupada did here, in Cross Maidan, Azad Maidan, even on this property, when he did Pandal program, everywhere there was Kirtan. And people love that actually. While going on traveling Sankirtan, we went to many places, and many times people told us, one time we did a program and we spoke, we did sitting Kirtan. And program got over. It was already 10 o'clock. So we said, okay, let's retire now, go. And those hosts didn't let us go. They said, the kirtan is not done yet. So we just did kirtan. Said, no, the dancing wala kirtan we want. So they were actually requesting that we do the dancing kirtan. So they also joined it because people like it. They like the dance. So Prabhupada, he wanted that. On November 1 in Vrindavan, Prabhupada received another letter from Bajaj acknowledging Prabhupada's acceptance and finalizing the program. I had been discussing with Mr. Bajaj a proposal to set aside time for us to do Sankirtan and show the world of Hare Krishna movie. And Bajaj suggested that Prabhupada and his disciples come a day earlier and hold a program on the evening of the 18th. So Prabhupada, this was his preaching, Kirtan and showing Hare Krishna world. At that time, this film that is made by Yadubara Prabhu and Vishaka Mataji, fantastic film, Hare Krishna World, which shows all the different centers, devotees chanting in all the different centers, all the activities of ISKCON, including the New Vrindavan farm community. It showcases Srila Prabhupada's mood and the 7 purposes of ISKCON. It showcases that. So Prabhupada wanted to show that. So when Prabhupada he went to a program, he just took over. That was the mood. He just took over. Because after seeing his dancing white elephants, and after seeing this world of Hare Krishna, and after hearing Prabhupada's strong preaching, what more would be there left for any other speaker? Prabhupada replied that he was happy to accept whatever arrangements I made, but he had something else on his mind as well. He had told his leading disciples to muster as much support as possible for the legal fight in America, and he was eager to show the way himself. Mr. Bajaj was influential both in India and abroad, and so were many of his associates on the Pratishthan. And Prabhupada wanted to seize the opportunity. Here you go. So see, Prabhupada, he's expert strategist. Expert strategist. In the history of the world, who has opened 108 branches in his lifetime post-retirement age? This is much more than any other mundane CEO or a mundane owner of any company could do, what Prabhupada did. Now, here there is mention that in America, there was a legal battle happening on. A legal case was filed in ISKCON in the 70s. And it so happened that Prabhupada inspired his own disciples to fight in court. And he said, our books are Bhagavatam, Chaitanya, whatever books had come out by then, which were a good number of books, including the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So what was the case? The case was that ISKCON is a cultist organization, and the allegation was brainwashing and programming the youth. So some American boys and girls, their parents had filed case on ISKCON that it is one of the other cultist organizations which is brainwashing the American youth and taking them away from natural living. So they had accused ISKCON of brainwashing. So Prabhupada replied, the brain is so dirty, it has to be washed only. So Prabhupada, whatever allegations were being made, Prabhupada used to counter them. So if the lawyers on that side, they used to say that, they used to say that you are making your people get up 4 o'clock in the morning and work the whole day. Forced labor you are making them do. And so Prabhupada used to say, whatever our activities are based on these different scriptures. If you want to know whether we are a cult or not, then you have to go through everything. Go through all the books. Prabhupada told his disciples, keep the entire Bhagavatam, everything, keep that in the law court. And they did it. Amarendra Prabhu was there. He was the lawyer in New York. So even in that Hare Krishna film, in that documentary which released 2018 by Yadubara Prabhu, that part is mentioned about this court case. It was a big challenge, and Prabhupada fought it. Prabhupada's mood was like that. It's also amazing the kind of spirit that Prabhupada had for fighting. You see, traditional sadhus are supposed to be humble and meek. And if you closely observe Prabhupada's mood, it was that of absolute takeover. And he was a complete fighter, a Kshatriya in spirit. He was like that. Because when it came to Juhu land, what detailing he did, what detailing of everything. Even in the Jew land, when the fight was going on, so that time when Prabhupada disciples, when they made, they listened to our lawyers who were actually who were bribed by Mr. Nayar's team. So they were also from that side. So and they cancelled the contract. Devoted disciples here, they cancelled the contract. And Prabhupada, he was so upset. But then he said, he made points. And he said, because of 6 to 8 points, he said, still we are on a stronger position. Still continue the fight. So the kind of mood that Prabhupada had was absolutely unrelenting. Unrelenting. And you see, when somebody engages in a fight, it is very draining. It's very draining mentally. It's very draining emotionally. All the time you're just thinking about victory. Because when you get into a battle, you have to win. You don't know who gets into a battle to lose. So it's ordinarily, it becomes like that. It's very draining, energy taking. And how did Prabhupada have such kind of enthusiasm to fight? Because his fight was for Krishna. So that is very special. We can, this is testimony of how Krishna consciousness transcends. The fight for Krishna, the fight for the truth, it transcends mundane fights. It transcends mundane aspirations. Otherwise, how will Prabhupada have at that age? You ask a 70-plus-year-old man getting into legal battles. He will not want to get into it. And Prabhupada is not getting into a battle, he's leading it. He's leading it. Not only for Jew, for establishing Krishna consciousness in America also. He says, he wrote to Mr. Bajaj, one thing has developed now in the Western countries. They are feeling the weight of our movement. Therefore, an attempt is being made to suppress or stop the movement in Europe and America. In America, the parents of my disciples are combining together. On account of the Hare Krishna movement, people in the Western countries are being attracted. There is now counter-propaganda by the enemies. They are organizing opposition. Will Gita Pratishthan help this Hare Krishna movement to face the cultural fighting between East and West? So this is, here you go. Why Prabhupada wanted to go to a Mayavadi Gita Pratishthan. He wanted to get support for fighting in America so that he would get recommendations from Ramakrishna Bajaj. Mr. Bajaj is a big man, philanthropist. They have connections. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to enlist support. He knew that even these Mayavadi guys also have good influence. So for our movement in the West, he'll get the support. Just see what kind of opportunist Prabhupada was. Outstanding, Because the goal was very clear. Goal was to please Krishna, establish Krishna everywhere. So everything is an opportunity. That's what we learn from Srila Prabhupada's mood. So even in this, so he goes ahead, this Gita Pratishthan that will be read out next Ekadasi. But here we see that Srila Prabhupada's mood is very strong with respect to preaching the exact message of Gita. His mood is also very strong with respect to establishing Krishna consciousness in the West despite all the counter propaganda. He wanted to counter that propaganda. And he says that because our movement is being established, people are feeling the weight. Because whenever we do something which is new, novel, people around, they always oppose it. So first they will laugh. They'll try to demoralize. Then after that, they see there is something happening, they oppose. Then the fight begins. And if you are on the side of the truth, you win. So this is Srila Prabhupada's, you see, there's so many battles to establish Krishna consciousness. So much inspiration we can derive from Prabhupada Katha. And that is the legacy of everyone who is connected to Srila Prabhupada's movement in any way, any shape or form. And this Juhu story is the legacy of this particular temple, which everyone should study. And then we know who our identity is. And then we will know which direction to move forward. Srila Prabhupada ki. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mike.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So many wonderful pastimes and realizations you shared. Prabhuji, you mentioning this chapter about facing challenges, and you mentioned this that how our life is very adventurous and it's like moving some when challenges are there in life. So it feels good, Prabhuji, having taking more challenges. But when it comes, sometimes it becomes very difficult to handle it. When some, like we see the example of Srila Prabhupada, he got so much criticism, although he was very bold and he wished to fulfill desire of his spiritual master. But when he took it, then so much criticism, so much setback. So in your life, Prabhuji, when such situation comes, what make you, handle such challenges? Please guide, Prabhuji.
What I can just share my understanding and realization about challenges. Actually, reading the biographies of those who have already gone through them is an excellent way to get inspiration. So, and no better than Prabhupada's life for this. When we see the world from a Krishna conscious lens and Prabhupada's life story and how people are at different ages and stages in their life, then only our appreciation for Prabhupada and his followers can increase. The wealth of Krishna consciousness that we receive. So out of gratitude for that, that gives us inspiration. So the life histories of such personalities, especially those who battled against all odds, serves as a great tool for our mind who always wants to remain in a depressed state. Because it's very easy to go down to ignorance. Very easy to just remain, life is so difficult, things are like this, And to keep our spirits high, especially in times that are down. Because that's what life is, ups and downs. We have to face our prarabdha, and not all time is good. When time is bad, that time people under you will also speak something offensive. And time is good, that time you never know who will come and they will come and salute. That's how life works for all of us also. So the more important thing, what I realize is if I can keep my spirit alive, if I can keep my inspiration alive. Because time is very powerful. Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time. So he changes. The time changes and then situations change. But that's not in our control. What is in our control is our own enthusiasm, our own spirit. As Srila Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Instruction, first line, he says in the introduction, progress in Krishna consciousness depends upon the attitude of the follower. Success in Krishna consciousness. So there is always a battle, internal and external both. Externally, things may go completely out of hand and against you. When bad time comes, it happens with everyone. Goes against you. Things go opposite. That's not in our control. But internally, that is very much in our control. What we cultivate ourselves with. What is our self-talk? What do we talk to ourselves? What input we are giving inside? That is completely up to us. And that responsibility nobody can take for you. Even our spiritual authorities can only help. They can only put the plate of food in front of you. Eating we must do. So that inspiration and that zeal, that little push has to be there. As Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad-gita, the mind has to be engaged as if by force. So certain things we have to push ourselves, and then the mind, finds its own waters to be in. So if we take things from a spiritual perspective, philosophical perspective, that the fight is always for Krishna consciousness, either externally or internally. Because every adverse situation also teaches us Trinadapi Sunichena Taroreva Saishana Amanena Manadena. It teaches us 4 qualities. Always, always. And that is actually the biggest battle to be fought. To be tolerant, to be humble, to give respect to others, and to not expect respect for ourselves. Actually, this fight is bigger than all the fights put together for us as individuals. So these anarthas, these fights, these situations that come are meant for our purification. It's easier spoken than done. When we go through it, oh my God, it's tough. But if we take it as an opportunity to develop these qualities, meanwhile we keep ourselves inspired, that helps us to go through those difficult phases. So when things are not working well for you, then it is internal challenge. When things are going out, then we move ahead to victory. For Prabhupada, his time came after 70 years. So I think what we need to learn is patience. Okay.
I can ask. Puji, you mentioned about this Gita Pratishthan happening in Varda, and Prabhupada accepted the proposal. So Prabhupada took this opportunity to preach Krishna consciousness, to perform Sankirtan there. But now what happens, I face some situations and I could see that, like, we are sitting in Mumbai and Hare Krishna is very famous now. ISKCON temple, Kirtans, as you mentioned, dancing, so famous. Everybody invites us like that. So I face some challenges that people call us, come for Sankirtan, perform in a company, some inauguration is there, some festival is there. So then, because we have some other commitments also, so we are not always available. So just going and doing Sankirtan and coming back, generally devotees are not, I've seen Sankirtan devotees or those who are into Kirtans, they're not always accept such proposal. They want something in return or something like that. How we can have such situations that, we can do more and more Sankirtan? Because I could see, because of something in exchange, that we are unable to go, because if we are not going, we are doing something else, and fulfilling our commitments or something we are doing practically for, it appears. Although Sankirtan is also practical, but somehow I have seen this gap, Prabhuji, and I could not identify how to make it happen. Some thoughts from your side.
The question is whether there are other commitments also.
Yeah. Question is, Prabhuji, that many situations, many people ask for Sankirtan, but we don't go because we don't get anything from there.
No.
We just go and do Sankirtan. So so then generally devotees are not ready, because just only going for Sankirtan, either we get some donation, either we get something. So how this practically can be done?
Actually, first is the mindset that has to be corrected, in the sense that you never know what comes from where. That mentality of, Prabhupada always re-emphasized again and again. Our job is to please Krishna. When he is pleased, he gives. It's not that when we do something in exchange. That is very gross and low mentality. This movement would not have come up if Prabhupada thought like that. The movement would not have come up. So the mindset should always be to go and give Krishna. Prabhupada says how preaching happens, Preaching happens when we go and sincerely glorify Krishna. Then he inspires within the heart as Paramatma to those individuals who want to hear to come and assemble there. He inspires. So if we are not Krishna conscious in our approach, then how can there be progress? So this kind of a give and take is a business program which is completely against our standards. So that mentality should not be there. If it is a practical issue of so many places and we cannot manage and it's not practical to go, then the best thing is we should have more teams who can go in place. Because preaching is expanding. As you said, we are already very well established. And so many devotees are around. So their test for those devotees who are out is to go and do Harinam and spread everywhere. Not only temple devotees should go. So that kind we can develop through our IYF and through our teams for Kirtan. Go to this place, go to this place. That's practically possible. Okay, so we'll end here. Any questions you can personally ask. Time is up. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
His Grace Nitai Madhav Prabhuji ki